Yesterday, we started the review of the chapter of development of wisdom. We stop at here. The most important of these delusions are 3. The delusions of seeing permanence in the impermanent, of seeing satisfaction in the unsatisfactory, and of seeing a self in the selfless. The next paragraph continues, whereas ignorance obscures the true nature of things, wisdom removes the veils of distortion, enabling us to see phenomena in their fundamental mode of being with the vivacity of direct perception. Let's define vivacity again. The quality of being attractively lively and animated, especially in women. Liveliness or animation. The liveliness of direct perception. How should a wisdom be trained? The training in wisdom centers on the development of insight, a deep, comprehensive seeing into the nature of existence, which fathoms the truth of our being in the only sphere where it is directly accessible to us, namely in our own experience. So this is where I think Buddhism is interesting, where we can verify whatever is being taught in something that is mentioned in the text here, directly accessible to us, namely in our own experience. All we need to do is just practice to find out the truth. Sounds simple enough, but it's not that easy. Normally, we are immersed in our experience, identify with it so completely that we do not comprehend it. We live it, but fail to understand its nature. Due to this blindness, experience comes to be misconstrued, worked upon by the 3 delusions. Delusions of permanence, of pleasure, and of self. Of these distortions, the most deeply grounded and resistant is the delusion of self. The idea that at the core of our being, there exists a truly established I, which we are essentially identified. But the Buddha says this notion of self is an error, a mere presupposition lacking a real reference. And what are the consequences of this notion of self? Because we make the field of self the lookout point from which we see the world, our minds divide everything up into the dualities. What are these dualities? I, not I. What is mine? What is not mine? Trapped in these dichotomies, we fall victim to the defilements they breed, the urges to grasp and destroy, finally, to the suffering that inevitably follows. Then, moving from that point of view, to free ourselves from all defilements and suffering, the illusion of selfhood that sustained them has to be dispelled, exploded by the realization of selflessness. This is precisely the task set for the development of wisdom. The first step along the path, the first way to develop wisdom is an analytical one. Here, the paragraph mentioned, one method of analysis applied most often is that of the 5 aggregates of clinging. Yeah. Consider material form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Material form is the easiest one to understand. Our material side of existence, everything physical, the bodily organism with its sense faculties, and the outer objects of cognition. The other 4 are all about the mental side. Feeling provides the affective tone. The 3 feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feeling. Perception factor of noting and identifying. The mental formations. The volitional, our willpower, and the emotions, the emotive elements. Last one, the consciousness. Basic awareness essential to the whole occasion of experience. So how should we analyze these 5 aggregates? The analysis by way of the 5 aggregates paves the way for an attempt to see experience in terms of the constituting factors without slipping in implicit references to an unfindable self. To gain this perspective requires the development of, firstly, intensive mindfulness, now applied to the 4th foundation. What is the 4th foundation? The contemplation of the factors of existence, Dhammanupassana, or in the previous other translations, the contemplation of phenomena. The disciple dwell, contemplating the 5 aggregates, the arising, and the passing. The disciple dwells in contemplation of phenomena, namely of the 5 aggregates of clinging. He knows what material form is, how it arises, how it passes away. Knows what feeling is, how it arises, how it passes away. Knows what perception is, how it arises, how it passes away. Knows what mental formations are, how they arise, how they pass away. And lastly, knows what consciousness is, how it arises, and how it passes away. This is taken from Digha Nikaya 22. Okay, until this point, any questions or comments? Okay. To quickly recap, we started with that the task of wisdom is to dispel ignorance. What exactly is ignorance? The foremost of this is the view of self. And then how exactly should we dispel this view of self? The view of self is with this contemplation, the analytical contemplation of the 5 aggregates. How exactly should we contemplate the 5 aggregates? We contemplate the arising and the passes away of each of its components, summarized in this paragraph. What is one example of contemplating the 5 aggregates arising and passes away? For example, let's say the most common one, your hair. Yeah? Your hair will grow, and then when you shower, you'll see some hair falling down, and then you can see the evidence in the drain. Yeah? So your hair grows. Yeah. Firstly, material form. Hair is your material form. Secondly, your hair grows, so your hair arises, and then eventually, when it's time, your hair will fall. Yeah. Then you can see a direct evidence, whether it can be in your room or it can be down the drain in the shower. Yeah, that's one example. The second way, instead of the 5 aggregates, we can contemplate the 6 sense bases, both internal and external spheres of existence. That is, the 6 sense faculties and their corresponding objects. Also taking note of the fetters or defilements that arise from such sensory context. Let's take a look at the sutta itself. The disciple dwells in contemplation of phenomena, namely of the 6 internal and external sense bases. What are the 6? Firstly, the eye. Yeah, he knows the eye. The eye is internal and forms whatever you see. The objects that you see is the external sense base. The ear, internal, and sounds. Yeah, the external. Whatever you hear can be noises, can be music. The ear and sounds. The nose and others, the tongue and taste, the body and tangibles. Lastly, the mind and mental objects. He knows as well the fetter that arises in dependence on them. He understands how the unarisen fetter arises, how the arisen fetter is abandoned, and how the abandoned fetter does not arise again in the future. One question you might have is that, are the 5 aggregates and the 6 sense bases the same, or is it different? And if it's the same, then why do we need these 2? Why do we need 2 ways of looking at the same thing? So a short answer is that they are the same. The first aggregate material form is actually the first 5 sense bases. The rest of the aggregate, the 4 other aggregates, is the same as the 6 sense base, which is the mind. The follow-up question, why do we need 2 ways of looking if it's the same? The answer that I received, it was from Shifu, is that the Buddha has different ways of teachings. For disciples that's more attached to the mental side, the Buddha will use the 5 aggregates because the mental sides are more emphasized in the 5 aggregates. For the disciples that's more attached to the sensory world, the Buddha will expound using the 6 sense bases. So this is also one way of one quality of the Buddha that shows that the Buddha is a skillful teacher that adjusts or adapts his teachings based on the disposition of the disciples, so that the disciples can relate it more, can relate it better, and can understand the teachings better. Okay, I think I will stop today at this point. Any question or comment?
Good morning, Master.
Yes.
Can you give me the 4 jhana states? The first one is what?
The 4 jhana states. Well, is okay, let me stop sharing. The first one is just called first jhana. Second one is called second jhana.
I know what is the states, right? The states.
What is the states like?
The states of the 4 jhanas.
You mean the description itself?
Yeah. First state, like you say, sustain. What's that? First one is what?
Okay. Let me scroll up for you. That was in previous chapter, quick. So, yeah. This is the textual definition, quick. You have the book, quick?
The small book you given me, is it that one?
Yeah. It's inside the book.
What page is that?
Okay, let me turn the page for you. That one is page 102.
Oh, 102. The small book lah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you want, I can screenshot this and send to your WhatsApp as well.
You send.
Okay. Thanks for your question, Craig.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Let me screenshot this. Okay, if not, let's do a dedication. 愿消三障除烦恼，愿得智慧真明了。普愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a selfless Friday ahead. Thanks everyone for participating. See you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.